Welcome back to the Spirited Discussions podcast, the show where we delve into the stories and strategies and the spirits of the island. I'm your host, Thomas, and today I'm joined with Serenade to talk about their favorite spirit, Downpour. Hopefully, you can enjoy our discussion if you've played as much as Serenade, or basically not at all. Let's start with an introduction.
Yeah, of course. I'm Serenade. I have played, a lot of Spirit Island. Yeah, I started playing like maybe a year and a half ago. Okay, somewhere in the ballpark of 1,700 hours. Yeah, it's a lot of Spirit Island.
1,700 hours?
In 1.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of Spirit Island.
Okay, you've got a few games.
Yeah, it's because people ping in the Discord, and then sometimes I'm free and I just play. So yeah, we've played a lot. Yeah, I played a lot of Downpour. Like maybe half of my games are with Downpour.
Half of your games. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I pick a lot of Downpour, yes. And yeah, just one day, one of my friends, shout out to Soda, good friend, she was like, hey, let's play a board game. And I'm like, what? So then we played Spirit Island, and then I just played a lot of Spirit Island.
Okay, was it a physical or digital that you started with?
TTS.
Okay.
That's Tabletop Simulator, yeah. Basically, I only play on TTS.
Oh, okay. Do you have a physical copy as well, or just TTS?
I actually do have a physical copy that I have used like 2 or 3 times when I try to get other friends in real life to play the game. I find it a bit more unwieldy because TTS automates a lot of the rules. In real life, you kind of have to do everything manually. Like even adding a fear or like gaining an energy is somewhat frustrating to do in real life.
So much effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra work. So
You're right. It is a lot more unwieldy as you say. I really like getting away from the screen and managing all of these little things and saying one fear and going through all these little steps.
Yeah. I think that's true. One thing that is kind of cool if you play in person is you have more of a social aspect because you're at a table with friends or whoever you want to play with. And then online on TTS, everyone is in front of their computer. Yeah, you are all in the voice chat. You are kind of talking about the game, but it's not exactly the same, right, as sitting on the same table. And maybe you have like snacks or drinks, and then like you talk about stuff, and then you have music in the background, blah, blah, blah. It's a different experience, I think.
Yeah. Even that fear generation that you'd referenced, it almost like one person does it. Someone says 3 fear, and one person is the guy who's doing the fear.
Yeah, the person who sits next to the fear pool.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have to worry about that. That's his job. Did you get my fear? So your friend pulled you into the game. Did you have experience with other board games before playing Spirit Island?
Not really. I mean, is chess a board game? I don't play a lot of chess.
Chess is definitely a board game.
Okay, yeah, well, I've played some chess. Not a lot of chess. I actually play a lot of card games, mostly. I play a lot of this card game called Bridge.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Did you find Spirit Island to be overwhelming, or like a lot? Was it a challenge to learn?
That's interesting. Yes, I did think at the beginning there was a very, very high learning curve. Whenever we introduce new friends to the game, I always call it like the talk. Like, who's gonna give the talk this time? Because you literally have to give them a lecture on the basics of the game. And that's even if we play without, certain things that could be quite annoying, like events or like, yeah, even sometimes if you play with no tokens, we play Prussia, who has almost no rules. It's still a lot to cover. Like, I feel like there are a lot of rules of the game. I think for me, it does help that I have played some. Actually, I don't know why I said chess. Like, I've actually played some other board games that involve this kind of like tile system for lands and then putting tokens on them to represent events. I think a good example would be like Scythe. I don't know if you know this game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I did play some Scythe, also not a lot, but I know this game existed. So, I mean, I feel like the idea of having tokens in lands that do stuff, I thought it was quite natural. Yeah, I really enjoyed the huge amount of spirits that existed in the game. So I started playing like way after NI was introduced. Yeah, it's just a lot to go through. Yeah, I remembered like the first game we played, my friend was like, you are going to play Ice Watch from the Trees. And then I'm like, oh, okay, how do I pick that? And then she was like, "Oh, you click this button up here, and there are like, like 40 spirits that you can pick." I was like, "Oh wow, okay, this looks like a quite an impressive game you got there."
It is. You eventually settled on falling in love with Downpour. What pulled you into this spirit in particular?
Mm, I don't know. It's a lot of things. So Downpour is the first spirit that I picked once I was free of the tutorial. Because you know how when we teach new players, we're like, okay, the first game you're gonna play Ice Watch from the Trees because it's like a tutorial spirit. That's what we would say because it's relatively straightforward.
It's low
You have a
complexity.
very obvious game plan. Yeah, exactly. Low complexity, not too many moving pieces. Move the hunt, kill invaders, get fear. There you go. And then the second game is usually like River or Lightning. Similar kind of thing. And then that's when I got to pick my own spirit. So I just picked Downpour because back then I was just picking things that had good art, right? And of course, Downpour has very good art in my opinion. Yeah, so I was like, oh, this spirit looks fun. I also like birds. I like rain. So, it's just perfect fit for me.
That's awesome. I like the fact that the art is so impactful that it's what drew you in more than anything else.
Specifically for spirit selection, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to pick something that has good art. Why not? Like, I don't know anything about any spirit anyway, right? The only thing I know about the spirit is what artwork they have.
Yeah. Are you a fan of lore within games? Do you appreciate the lore that Spirit Island has?
Yeah, I do enjoy lore. I'm mostly a mechanics player, to be honest. Most of the time,
Okay.
like I play to win, I play for score in some situations. Not in Spirit Island, but in some other games maybe. But yeah, I value mechanics more, but I also do enjoy like aesthetics of the game.
Do you appreciate that Downpour exists in the game, not as just the rain on the island, but the deluge, the unstoppable rain?
Yes, yes, this is actually one of the most interesting parts about Downpour because often when people think about rain, at least in Europe and America, not everywhere, of course, but when people think about the rain, they think of like this somewhat annoying thing that waters your crops, I guess. And I really like the fact that Downpour is more like the monsoon in East Asia. So, a bit of trivia from me. I am from East Asia. So I know what a tropical monsoon is like. And it is very cool to see that be a spirit. And it is the rain that not just, gives, this is in the lore, right? It's not just the rain that brings life to the world, but it is also the rain that washes things away. And it can be as destructive as it is healing. So I think that, that two-faced aspect of Downpour is very cool. I didn't really think about this before, but maybe that's why it's two heads. Probably not. I don't know. I think it's interesting anyway.
I hadn't thought about why it has two heads either. But sometimes whenever you say things out loud, it just connects. It clicks and it
It
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
So that's really awesome. I thank you for sharing that. So for you, what makes Downpour stand out? You went to it because it looks pretty, but you keep playing it.
Yeah, I can't really explain why I play a lot of Downpour either. I just pick Downpour a lot. I don't know. Sometimes I get like, decision paralysis. What spirit do I play? Oh, the old faithful, click on Downpour again.
You have enough decisions throughout the game. Why make one before the game?
I think it's a lot of different things. So, at some, I think the answer depends on what stage I was in my Spirit Island journey, I suppose. So as a player, I'm someone who likes to be good at things, right? If I'm gonna play this game, I want to be good at it. So I think a big part of the reason why I play a lot of Downpour is because I want to optimize the spirit, right? I want to be good with this spirit, so I play it a lot. But I think that's only part of the reason. I think another reason is because I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but Downpour has lots of interesting interactions with adversaries, with other spirits. Yeah, I feel like even after all these hours, I wouldn't say that, I've fully explored everything. I think there's still more things to see and to do with the spirit. So yeah, I think that's why I would play it a lot. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I've done this 10,000 times, it feels boring. I don't think I would feel that way about Downpour.
That's awesome. Do you think that you've gotten good? What difficulty do you normally play at?
Yeah, getting good is always a bit of a loaded question. Um, and yeah, I don't, like not every player plays to be good, right? And so for me, my comfort zone is diff 13. So like I guess that counts as high diff doubles. Yeah, like usually 4 or 5s is what we
Okay.
would do.
Okay.
Div 12 to Div 13, I would say, is a comfort zone because it's kind of the level where you don't need to be hyper optimized, but you still need to be sort of optimized. Like, it's possible for you to lose the game if you make even small mistakes, you know? So I think it's kind of at the level where decisions are a bit more impactful because I feel like at single six, a lot of the time, it's not that you can't, it's not that mistakes don't matter, it's just that there are other ways to bail you out. So at least for me, I feel like, if I play poorly and then we still won the game, I'll be like, oh, feels like my existence didn't really matter, So I want my existence to matter. So I tend to play like slightly on the higher end of difficulty.
Yeah, that's definitely on the higher end. I guess that makes you the best of us, playing so high.
No, I don't think the difficulty you play at makes you a good player. It's just what we often do with my friend group. But yes, I also play a lot of single sixes because that's a lot more popular in the Discord community.
Yeah.
Not that many people want to play high doubles because a lot of people, not to say anything about their skill level, of course they're really good players. It's just that they don't necessarily enjoy as much the higher difficulty because sometimes you're just here to vibe with other players, right? Like you got
Absolutely.
off work, you're just here to chill with your friends. So why make it difficult for yourself, right? You want to click random spirit, play whatever that comes up, have some fun. So difficulty I feel like doesn't necessarily correlate with a player's skill necessarily. I mean,
I agree. I think that is a good vantage point to assess what you normally do to be able to understand where you're coming from, though.
mm, yep, makes
So,
sense.
with that in mind, I kind of want to start getting into, at a very high level, what does Downpour do? I want to be able to talk about their cards, their special rules, their innates, and we can go
Yes.
through this pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, I have a quote which I say when people ask, what does the spirit do? And the answer is basically everything. If you want to summarize Downpour in one sentence, Downpour is a hybrid control defense spirit that comes with a pseudo land skip and a land nuke and one of the best support tools in the game. The only thing it doesn't do is generate a lot of fear, but it does pretty much everything else. So yeah, it is a phenomenally powerful spirit, in my opinion.
If you find the right cards, it can even make the fear too. Rain of Blood is the notable card for
Yeah,
me.
I'm sure we'll get to that at some
We
point.
will. So, the Spirit Downpour, I want to talk about each of the cards really quickly. First one is Dark Skies Loose a Stinging Rain. It has a range of 1 from wetlands. It isolates target land. You push an Explorer and up to 2 Dahan. What's the general use case for this?
I think this card is a very flexible card. Ideally, you play it on a land where you get everything, right? So you push an explorer, stop a build, you isolate a land that often interacts with invader like adversary rules, like for example, livestock's gather or England's adjacency build, that kind of stuff. Or it stops a follow-up explorer if that's possible, right? And then you also push to the hunt, get them in a position to counterattack or get them in the land where you need them later. So yeah, this card is a phenomenally powerful card because it has so many lines of useful text. It's hard to find a card like this in the minor deck, right?
I don't play the Spirit anywhere near as much as you do, but my level 1 heuristic is I'm probably playing this on turn 1. I'm
Yeah,
pushing an Explorer, getting to the Dahan in the right spot. Maybe I'm preventing an Explorer. I'm pretty happy to play this card early, late, all the time.
exactly. It's a great card. You can play it pretty much any time and get a good value because isolates actually line up quite well against a lot of adversary rules. Of course, some adversaries you're just gambling, like for example, like against Prussia, you're just hoping to stop and explore. But there's a lot of adversaries where isolating a land can give you a big advantage. So having isolate this easily as part of your kit is one of Downpour's great advantages.
Do you think that you don't notice the isolate as much at a lower difficulty? Because so many adversary effects do very well with Isolate in mind.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I haven't really thought about this. So I think there are two ways to get good value out of isolates. One is from knowledge of the invader deck, right? So for example, let's say Jungle's Wetlands came up, and the next card is a stage 1. You know this is either Mountain or Sands, right? So you have a 50% chance to hit your isolate. Whereas if you use your isolate earlier where you have less information, you would only have 33% chance, for example. Right, so I think
Absolutely.
isolate benefits a lot from knowledge of the adversary of the invader deck. It also benefits a lot from playing against an adversary that has rules that that isolate can stop. So yeah, it probably scales quite well with difficulty, I would say.
Okay. Well, I guess that brings us to the next card, another Isolate. Unbearable Deluge. This is range 0, generates a fear, push 2 Dahan, and you defend 3. And if it's a wetlands, you isolate it. This is something I'm thinking about playing maybe on turn 2.
That makes sense, yeah. Deluge is a pretty flexible card. I think this is one of Downpour's bread and butter cards because, first of all, cost 0, right? Of course, we're going to get to Downpour's special rule at some point because 0 costs on Downpour are very broken because when you repeat them with a special rule, you don't pay more energy. So Deluge only says defend 3. That doesn't sound like a lot, but because it costs 0 and your special rule lets you repeat it, it lets you defend multiple different lands for 3. And that's actually a much more powerful effect than if you had a card that says defend 1 land for 6. Right? Because here you have the option of splitting up your defense 6. Right? You can either defend 6 in the same land, you can defend 3 in 2 different lands. And that's really where Downpour shines. It's like, oh, I only need to defend 3. What am I going to do? Well, maybe my teammate needs to defend 3. I'm going to go there and help them out, right? So cheap defense are really, really powerful for this reason.
Like the Relentless Gaze of the Sun, it gives every card that you play a level of modularity.
Yeah,
and modularity is very powerful.
That's true, but Downpour's one's even stronger because you don't have to use them on the same land.
Yep.
So the ability to spread them out is really nice.
Absolutely. The big notable thing that I experience with Unbearable Deluge is it pushes the Dahan. This isn't an up to or a May.
Yeah.
You do it.
Mandatory
and
push, yeah.
The biggest and most exciting thing for me is when I defend, I want to defend for a counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
I find so much of the puzzle for Downpour is getting those Dahan back in that land.
Yes. So this push to Dahan, I don't know this for sure, but from my perspective as a player, to me this is clearly intended to balance the card. Because the card says 1 fear defend 3 if it's a wetlands isolated, and your special rule makes wetlands, right? So you can choose to get the isolate whenever. So this card is extremely overloaded text, right? What is balancing this card? First of all, it's range 0, right? And if you want the wetlands, it's sacred site range 0. So that's very restrictive. The second thing that balances this card is that when you're defending, you have to push the Dahan away, so you're not getting the counterattack. And Downpour actually has other things that anti-synergy of Dahan, which is specifically the Leftinate, that reduces Dahan counterattack damage. So it makes you feel like this is a spirit that is like not relying on the Dahan, because these tools in your kit are saying, hey, these Dahan are not going to be fighting the invaders. But I feel like that's really not true. Downpour really benefits from Dahan-centric strategies, and that's because what is stopping you from just repeating Deluge and getting the Dahan back in?
Absolutely. You go to a different location, you push them back.
Yeah, you push them back in. Or, as I really like to do, I would often play Deluge and Dark Skies together, because Dark Skies can push the Dahan back in. So one common play pattern for me is on turn 2, Dark Skies and Deluge, and then Dark Skies is going to stop a build and get the Dahan back in, and also isolate the land. So you can get value out of all 3 lines of text.
It's a lot of value.
Yeah, it's a lot of value for a single card play.
So we've referenced the special rule quite a bit. Let's actually formalize what this does. So there's a couple of portions. The first one is if you have a sacred site, the land you're in is a wetland. And so if the target land is a wetland, isolate it is a pretty low bar.
Exactly.
The next one is for every 2 water that you have, you get to choose one, you can get an energy, or you get to repeat a land targeting power by paying its cost. You can only do this up to 5 times, but that's
Yeah, it's not likely to get up to 10 water most of the time.
exactly.
Yeah, I've reached a limit maybe like, I don't know, like less than 10 times in, yeah, many hours of Downpour.
That's so many times.
Yeah.
With this in mind, we can see how some of these cards can be a little more powerful. And I want to talk about the next one, Foundations Sink into Mud. It's a range 0 and it deals 2 damage to towns, but if it's a wetland, you can instead deal 1 damage to all buildings.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a really cool card, I think, for many reasons, right? Like, I think thematically, this is probably the card that gave me the strongest impression when I first looked at Downpour's kit without knowing much about strategy, right? Because from a face value, what your kit is doing is, oh, I'm gonna defend and stall. And then at some point in the future, I'm going to repeat Foundations a bunch to deal 1 damage to each invader, right? Because remember, I can make wetlands, I can repeat my power cards. So it makes a lot of sense that my game plan is going to end up in me repeating Foundations and killing everything, right? That's kind of like the Downpour fantasy. You start by raining on the invaders so they don't feel like attacking you, and then you just wash all their buildings away, right? So I think this card gave me the strongest impression when I started playing Downpour.
Foundations feels like a major power.
It can
It's
be
3
yes.
energy, and it wipes out a land. It's can be overwhelming at times.
Yes, but you also have to consider that repeats have a hidden cost of 1 energy.
Yeah,
Because the
the
2
opportunity
water, yeah,
cost.
exactly. Because the 2 water can be traded for an energy if you don't repeat them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Foundations kind of cost 5 effectively. It costs 5 energy. It costs your waters, which kind of matters in some situations, and it wipes a land of buildings. Importantly, it doesn't kill explorers.
True.
So yeah, I think if you put it that way, it's still a powerful effect. It's just not as brainless, right? Like if you have a 3-cost card that says destroy all invaders, that would be an incredibly powerful effect. But now it costs 5 and it says, destroy all buildings. That's significantly worse.
At range 0 of a sacred site.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting card whenever it goes off, and it likely will go off, but you do have to do some planning. I actually played a game recently where this card was played on turn 1 to destroy 4 towns.
I have done that as well before. Yeah, livestock most likely, in my opinion,
yeah.
right? Yeah, livestock, yeah,
Exactly.
because they build 2 towns and gather a town, and then you repeat the Foundations, kill everything.
Yeah,
So yeah, good fun.
we needed to push the blight, but we had access to that, so it was good fun.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right, their last card is Gift of Abundance. You target another spirit, and they either gain 2 energy, or they can repeat a power card, and either you or the spirit can add one of their destroyed presence to a wetland that you have. What's the use case of this?
Yeah, so I think this card is also kind of cool thematically because Foundations emphasizes the destructive aspect, right, of Downpour as the rain spirit, and Abundance emphasizes the life-giving aspect of rain. So I think it's really cool. It also has nice elements, sun, air, water, plant, OP elements, but also nice elements, right, for a card which is like, here, have lots of rain, grow plants, feed everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think this card is probably the strongest card in Downpour's kit because this card is basically the major power storm, right? Like Spirit can repeat any power card. And this is so strong because when on the turn where you play it, you can look around the table. Oh, what's the best card we have in play? Here, you get to double that, right? That's such a insanely powerful effect. Scales well with the number of players on your team as well. So yeah, sharing some of the repeating goodies that Downpour has, very satisfying, very, very powerful.
a 1-cost repeat as a unique seems like one of the most powerful effects in the game in my mind.
Yeah, starting the game with this is incredible because your team knows that you can play around this, right? Like, let's say you have a river on your team, right? All of these Boon of Vigors are going to be doubled. Or if you have a green on your team, have twice the number of prolifs and so on.
Yeah. There's the additional effect that you get to add a destroyed presence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find this to be a relevant and meaningful effect?
It's very important for Downpour itself. Because I think this goes back to Downpour's innates, right? Because your right innate destroys your own presence. So you really appreciate putting them back. And one thing we've mentioned quite a lot is that your powers are range 0, and they have interaction with wetlands, right? So Downpour needs a lot of presence on the board to function. Abundance being able to return your own presence is a really, really nice effect. Sometimes returning other spirits' presence can be interesting, right? Like, for example, returning a volcano presence or green presence. These are all interesting effects,
Yeah.
but I would say, like, over 90% of the time, Downpour would take it itself.
Wounded Water's bleeding is so interesting because this is one of the few times that you could play Gift of Abundance on turn one. And they have very powerful uniques as well, but they have that starting destroyed presence. I think it's very funny that you get to target them on turn one if you wanted to be able to get
Return
something
presence.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Although I feel like for Wounded specifically, that's not really a great. Well, it's not a big deal, first of all. Wounded doesn't need that much presence. And second of
I
all,
would tend to
Destroyed.
agree.
Yeah, and Destroyed presence, in my mind, is a huge asset for the team. It's really beneficial for your team that you have Destroyed presence, as long as it doesn't interfere with you targeting powers or winning the game, right? Because obviously, like, if you destroy all your presence, you lose. But having Destroyed presence on your team is really nice because it lets you use Solidify, one of the majors, and Blazing Renewal, again a major, right? Which require Destroyed presence.
I'm thinking about those two cards pretty often, and I think about how do I get at least one destroyed presence so that I can have access to those. I don't want to have to destroy presence after the fact, so I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but Abundance on turn one is not an uncommon play because there's a lot of situations where just giving somebody 2 energy completely changes their game. The best example of this, in my experience, is Trickster, which is funny because Trickster's on the Art of Abundance, so we joke about it a lot. Um, yeah, so you know how Trickster's special rule can splash a Strife, right? If they pay
Yeah.
energy. So yeah, turn one, here, have 2 energy, go to town. Um, we do that quite a lot because one of my friends is a trickster spammer, and they really go to town with +2 energy on turn one. It's really nasty to watch.
I always find it so interesting how little changes in how much energy you have can completely shift the game. As little as
Yeah,
2 energy changes your entire game plan. That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. You can also do some other nasty things, like if you have a Starlight, you just repeat the Boon of Reimagining on turn one. Yeah, stuff like that. There's a lot of nonsense that you can get in with the repeats early.
Yeah, repeats, they're pretty scarce in the game, so seeing one on a unique power is very enticing. It's very fun. So thanks for going through the unique powers. They have a pretty cool growth option. One of them is to add 2 presents. You get 2 water for the turn, and you have to discard 2 power cards. Is this like your bread and butter, or you rarely push that button?
Ah, yeah, this is a really fascinating aspect of Downpour. So first of all, we know that the discard two is an effect, not a cost, right? So I think one of the first impressions people have of Downpour is like, oh, I can just keep G2ing and not playing any cards, right? Because you don't have to have cards to discard the G2. And then, oh, look at all these water. I can use my left innate and defend my lands and don't even take blight while I'm doing this. So yeah, this is I would say a pretty common like early impression of Downpour. Unfortunately, I don't think this is a good strategy if you're interested in like having a strong spirit. Of course, you can do it if you think it's fun. Nothing's
Yeah.
stopping you from having some good fun.
To elaborate on what you're saying G2 off the top, G2 off the top, and then G2 off
Yeah.
the top, and
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
doing your left innate on turn 2 to be able to defend. On turn 3,
Yeah.
you're doing it to tier 2, and you can
Exactly. Yeah.
all this time you're just getting water and you're not playing cards, so that means that you're just getting
Yeah.
energy.
You're just banking energy.
and
Yeah.
then you eventually click reclaim and you pick up a major power and you repeat it.
Yeah, and then you go to town. Yeah, so that's one way to play Downpour. It works very well at lower difficulty. It also works in against single 6 adversaries quite a lot of the time. But I would like, yeah, if you enjoy it, go for it. But I would say if you like taking Downpour to its full potential, this is not a good build. And the simple reason is because playing cards is good, right?
Playing
So if
cards
you're
is
just
good.
playing no cards, yeah, exactly. If you're just playing no cards, that really can't be optimal. Um, so how often do I click this G2? I think this, I do click it quite a lot because this option gives a lot of tempo, right? So by tempo, I mean it just provides me with a lot of actions on the board to do things. So it double grows, advances your track 2 spots. Now, if you look at Downpour's bottom track, it has like, all these, well, not dead spots, but you have to go a long way before you get to 2-card plays and also a long way to get to 3-card plays, right? So the G2 double grow makes it easier to get to 2 or 3-card plays. And then the 2 water helps you to repeat these cards that you're going to play. G2 is quite an important tool to hitting certain breakpoints on Downpour's tracks. And then, of course, Downpour's top tracks is pure elements, but these elements are surprisingly powerful because, as we said, 2 water can be energy or card plays, right? So instead of having energy or card plays printed on your tracks, you basically have these water spots that let you choose whether you want an energy or a card play. So yeah, that's a really cool effect. It's also very powerful.
I have found that the very act of having cards to be able to let me discard 2 is sometimes more important than what card I took. And I found this with Wandering Voice Keen's Delirium. And they, on turn 1, I added 2 presents and discarded 2 cards, had 1 card left in my hand, and they let me discard that to just gain a random card.
Yep.
I did a turn 2 reclaim, but I felt strong just because I had a random card to be able to discard.
Yeah, to discard again. Yeah. Downpour benefits a lot from cards in general, because quite often you want to G2 and then be able to play a good number of cards. That being said, however, I actually think G3 is the stronger grow, even though, we said a lot of good things about G2.
Yeah.
G3 being the draft, add a presence, and gain an energy. And that's because I think Downpour is one of the spirits who benefits most from drafting in the entire game. And that's because most spirits, if you get a really good card, you get to play it, right? That's great, you played a good card. If Downpour gets a good card, it's getting played like 3 times, right? Every time it gets played. So Downpour's special rule, being able to repeat land targeting powers, greatly amplifies the difference between good cards and bad cards. If Downpour gets good cards, like, it can carry the entire table. If Downpour doesn't see any good cards, which is extremely rare, you're just playing like, kind of a lame game where you just spam your uniques because your uniques are so strong.
Are there any must-take cards? You look through the minor power deck and you go, I'm taking this every single time no matter what.
I think no cards exist that you would just take every single time, I would say, but there are many cards which are game-winning as soon as you see them. So I think the most Downpour thematic card that most people would consider to be an insta-pick is probably Mesmerize Tranquility.
That's the one that comes to my mind.
Yeah, like, if you were to say, if this card was a unique, which spirit would have this card as a unique? The answer would be Downpour, because it just feels like a Downpour card. Like, Isolate, each invader does -1 damage, range 0, broken of repeats. Like, everything about this card screams that it's for Downpour.
Yeah.
That being said, I think drafting with Downpour is a lot more contextual, because once again, you have to consider the fact that your cards can be repeated, and very importantly, they can be repeated in different lands. So I think a lot of my drafting priorities comes down to, like, is this card going to benefit not just me, but also the team that I'm playing with, right? Because Downpour's growths are range 2, range 3, you have lots of presence movement, you can repeat powers in different lands. You don't really have to play your powers on your own board all the time. So quite often I'm looking for cards that, like, I can sprinkle around the board. I think Sap the Strength of Multitudes is probably the best example of that, right? Also screams a Downpour card, like 0 cost water, defend 5, right? It has 1 range if you have air, which Downpour almost always has air. So this is also another fantastic card that I think Downpour takes a lot.
So there are a couple of things that whenever I look through the deck, I noticed that, as a general heuristic, some of the most powerful cards aren't land targeting, they're spirit targeting. Downpour can't repeat those. How often are you taking these support cards?
Depends on the situation, but I would say almost always, just because you don't have to only take cards you can repeat. Because after all, you are limited by water, you don't have infinite repeats. So, let's say I see Gift of Power, which is another fantastic card that I would take almost always on Downpour. I'm happy to just play this once in a while, give other people a draft, take a draft for myself, and then I can repeat a different card that I played. For example, I played it together with Deluge, right? Then I can still repeat the other card. So I think drafting support powers on Downpour is perfectly fine. Some of the strongest cards in the game, as you say, are support powers. So yeah, it's okay to draft them even if they can't be repeated.
Awesome. The other thing is I find I want to use my right innate often because it gives so much energy and that's powerful. But that
Yeah.
2 plants is kind of a meaningful threshold. Are you looking for plant cards a lot, or is water still number one?
Ride Innate is probably one of Downpour's strongest tools into any situation because it's fast blight healing, right? Like if you think about blight healing that exists in Spirit Island, they're almost always slow, except for cycles and Downpour Innate. And they usually require a sacred site, and they're usually terrain restricted. Downpour's Ride Innate is one of the few cases where it's not terrain restricted, it's fast blight healing, and it gives you back energy. So yeah, it's absolutely completely insane. One of the strongest tools that Downpour has in its arsenal. And just to give an idea why blight healing is so strong, if invaders are going to ravage, what's going to happen? They're going to blight. Well, if I remove the blight, it's as if they never ravaged, right? So you can think of it as basically I'm skipping a ravage, and as we know, that's a really strong effect. Unless you just ignore the invaders, that's so powerful.
Whenever you have this maxed out, whenever the blight would be added to target land, instead leave it on the
Yeah,
card.
yeah, infinite vitality. It's a three
Yeah,
plus
this is a
major.
major power that gives you 2 energy. And while it removes one of your blight or your presence, you have Gift of Abundance to put it back.
Yeah, abundance, put it back, exactly. So yeah, this is very strong, and I agree that's the reason why the plant spot on the top track is super, super important for Downpour. It's one of the breakpoints that Downpour often looks toward. So the most common Downpour breakpoint is plant on the top track and 2 card plays on the bottom track. And that's generally when your spirit is like very functional. Like even if you reclaim for the rest of the game, you're gonna have a good time.
If you get to plant and 2 card plays, would you say you're reasonably powerful? Like you're doing well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Like you
awesome.
you become very strong at plant too. And then you if you get to the second water on top track, or you get to the 2 air, or if you get to the 3 card plays, you're usually like ahead of curve of most adversaries already.
I find myself getting to the 3 card plays and wishing I had the plants, or I'm at the first water and 3 card plays, and then again always short that 1 plant.
Yep, yep. I would say the top plant spot is really, really important because it's energy, it's an extra action, right? It gives you so much more value compared to the 3rd card play most of the time. That being said, the 3rd card play is also very powerful because if you play water cards, you're basically getting 1.5 card plays, right? Because each 2 water lets you repeat a card. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you have a lot of 0 cost waters or 0 cost plants, where if you go bottom, you still hit the right in it, that could be very powerful.
Okay, so which one's more important, water or plant?
Plant versus water. Plant, I think, is higher priority than water, yeah, because of the right innate. And in some matchups, Downpour really needs the blight healing, so you kind of want to get a water card early, right? Because you start with abundance, plant card. Because you start with abundance, which is a plant card that hits your right innate. And then if you draft another plant card, that you can go with that, so you play them on alternating turns, right? This gives you a right innate every turn. And having a blight heal on demand every turn is quite a ridiculous effect because if you think about it, most of the time adversaries on stage 1 and stage 2, they attack in 2 lands,
Yeah.
right? So if you defend in 1 land and blight heal in the other land, which Downpour can often do, you've just completely negated every threat that the invaders can have, right? So yeah, getting a good plant card is quite high priority and very powerful.
I'm going to tell you one of my friend's hot takes, okay? He plays a lot of the spirit, and he says that Downpour is a fire spirit.
That is a hot take. Why?
All of these very powerful, repeatable cards that he's excited to take have fire on them.
I mean, your friend is onto something because a lot of the strongest cards for Downpour do indeed have fire. So I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the most, I think, at least in my mind, the most mechanically Downpour card in the minor deck is Quicken the Earth Struggles.
Yes.
Why is this a mechanically Downpour card? Because Sacred Size 0 is the only thing stopping this card from being a menace, and Downpour makes Sacred Size 0. It's completely fine, right? And then Defend 10, Insane Effect, 1 damage to each building, Insane Effect when repeated. This is a very Downpour card, and yeah, of course, there's fire. And then we have Gold's Allure, very strong Downpour card. a lot of zero cost controls at fire. So yeah, I could see it, but I would say there are also a lot of bad cards with fire, right? Like I don't know, Steam Vents or Visions of Fiery Doom. I'm not gonna be picking these cards very often. So yeah, but your friend is onto something, and what they are onto is the fact that the strongest Downpour cards are either cards with good effects when repeated, or cards that just cost zero. And these are definitely the highest priority cards in my mind to take. So certain cards, regardless of their elements, are going to be broken. Like for example, Call to Trade, right? Like Call to Trade is broken no matter what elements are printed on the card. That card can have no elements and you will still take it. So yeah, this is a card I'm taking on down for a lot. Oh look, it happens to have all of my elements. Yeah, okay, perfect. But even a card that seems to be completely off element, like what is an example I haven't mentioned yet? Swarming Wasp is a good one because it's a card that is completely off element for Downpour, but the effect of this card is just good and spammable, right? Like it costs zero. It has a beast. Adding beast is good. If the land has beast, push two explorers. Push two explorers is a surprisingly good effect, right? Yeah. Like there's France, HME, Russia, all benefit from this text. And look, you can repeat the power, right? So you add a beast and push two explorers. Even if you can't repeat it, you just add a beast. It's still a useful effect. So yeah, this is also a card I take quite a lot on Downpour, even though it's like completely off element.
Whenever you take the modularity of being able to repeat powers and combine it with a modular power, you end up with something that's very powerful. You get to, for 0 energy, add the beast, do a repeat, push the two explorers.
But I have to say, not at any cost, because I'm thinking about cards like Prowling Panthers. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, right? Like, you either add a beast, or if there's a beast, destroy a town, that card. In theory, these kind of cards that have conditionals are good on Downpour because you can repeat them, but it's very expensive. Like 3 cost to add a beast and destroy a town. That's like you're paying a lot for that effect. So it gets memed more than it needs to be honest. So Prowling Panthers kind of has a reputation for being a really bad card.
Yeah.
It's justified in some ways, but I'm sure we can come up with some situation where Prowling Panthers wins the game. So not going to be too hard on it.
Are there any major powers that you would like to highlight?
Majors are interesting on Downpour because most of the time when I play Downpour, I want to go bottom track. But if I go top track, of course, I'm getting a major, right? Majors with Downpour have kind of an issue because let's say you play like a big major that costs like 6 energy. You probably don't have the energy to repeat it again, right? Like you're probably not going to be like holding on to 12 energy all the time.
Makes sense.
So most of the time you're looking for like cheap majors that you can spam. And in my opinion, the most common one of these is Bargain of Coursing Paths, the portal card.
I mean, that card is pretty strong. Being able to repeat it while it's thresholded is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's really good, and it has synergy of Downpour so many ways. Like, first of all, the threshold is air, water, earth, right? Which is your elements. You can threshold this card really easily. It costs 2, so you can spam it. It prolifts you, which you prolift off your top track and take more energy from the waters, right? And then normally it's supposed to be balanced by the fact that the invaders on the portals have to be teleported onto the island so they don't vanish. But you have foundation, so you don't care how many invaders are in the same land. You just keep piling the invaders and the portals into your foundations land, and they just all disappear. So yeah, this is a fantastic card. Very fun to get on Downpour.
You can threshold this on turn 2. Yeah, you'd have to. No, you'd be able to do it on turn 3 at the earliest.
Yeah, you need a spur.
Yeah.
It's more common to threshold this on like turn 3. Yeah, it's still very good, mainly because it costs 2, right? So you spam it and get like 3 prolifts off your tracks.
The cost is that you usually have to lose an energy a turn, but you're not really making energy. So what are you doing here?
You just trade in the waters for energy,
and that's it's like tax free.
It's not tax free, but I like to think about it as the card pays for itself, right? Like, the card prolifts you from your top track, that you wouldn't have had without playing it, and then you use your top tracks progression to pay for the cost of the card.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite pay for itself, but it's quite close.
For the power that it gives, it's close enough.
Yeah, it's really good. Another major that I really like on Downpour, which might surprise you, is Cast Down. This one is so fun on Downpour, and that's just because we play with like 4 to 6 players quite a lot. So a lot of my Downpour games, when I go top track on Downpour, and then I find Cast Down, and it just like cast down the entire island. It is very funny because yeah, Downpour can repeat Cast Down if you have enough energy.
One of the Nature Incarnate major powers features Downpour on its art.
Yeah.
The ravaged undergrowth slithers back to life. What do you think of this?
Yeah, good card. It's a good card. It has Downpour's art, so I have to pick it.
See, we found an auto pick.
Yeah, it's a good card. I think it has a lot of nice effects that Downpour really wants, right? Like it makes a bunch of wilds. It's a control card. So you push all the invaders into your land at your foundations. Again, common theme of Downpour control cards.
Yeah.
So yeah, good effect.
It's very easy to threshold. It's in fact difficult to not threshold it.
Yeah, it's thresholds itself on turn 2 even. Right now. Turn 3, thresholds itself.
Need that extra turn. One card that is okay on elements, but not what I think of, but is very cheap and very good to repeat, is the Trees and Stones Speak of War.
Yeah, it's a good card on Downpour. I guess if I had to find something bad about this card, it's the fact that it doesn't scale that well of repeats. Because, yeah, like, you know, like, let's say you make a big stack of Dahan, you repeat it a bunch, you're not really accomplishing a lot. So, yeah, it doesn't scale that well of repeats, but you can use this on, like, you know, 2 different lands on the island. So, yeah, it's still a good card.
Is there any other major power that you want to pull out?
Yeah, one major power that I think quite controversial, but I have a lot of discussion with people. There are people who say it's good and there are people who say it's bad, but that is Tiger's Hunting on Downpour. Once again, the theme of being completely off element, but this card scales so well with repeats because it gives you lots of fear, it gives you scaling amounts of damage with the beasts, and you get to like distribute the beasts when you're done. It's a really fun card. I think I've settled on it being good, like very good, just because you have so much flexibility with what you can do with Tiger's Hunting.
It's a very versatile card. The fact that it's fast damage, moves so many beasts, a lot of fear, it feels like it shores up a lot of weaknesses that you have. It's pretty difficult, nigh impossible to threshold.
Yeah.
But the top part is empowering.
Yeah, the top part is pretty good. Only costs 2 energy, so yeah, you can do lots of creative things with this. The other thing is just that Beast is just a very strong token because a lot of events give you beneficial effects for beasts. So just like having beasts spread out all over your board is itself a hidden benefit of the card.
Yeah. Another card that kind of auto thresholds itself is Smothering Infestation. Do you ever take this?
Yeah. This is I think a often overlooked card. I think I take it less often than I should, but even then it's still not the greatest card. It's still a strong card for sure, but I think the problem with this card is it's really, very expensive to repeat its effect, right? Because if you're trying to repeat the 1 damage to invaders to clear out a land, well, then congratulations, you've just got a worse foundations, right? If your job is to nuke a land. So it's a good card in lots of situations. So one most common situation this is really good in is against HME, so Habsburg Mining, because obviously added disease is really good. And second of all, mining tends to have like a bunch of explorers that Downpour can't deal with very well. So one smothering just wipes a land, and that's really, really nice.
Something that I find notable about Smothering is that you only get to 3 damage up top if it's a wetland or jungle. And where you are is a wetland. And if you have, let's say, 1 town and a city, well, you can allocate 1 damage to the town and 2 to the city, deal 1 damage to each invader, completely wiping out the land.
Yeah. It's a nice card for sure. I think it's somewhat overshadowed a bit perhaps because there are some other majors that do its job but better. I think the best example of this is Storm Swath, which is like it's a really fantastic Downpour card because you spam it,
Yeah.
you clear out 2 lands.
Another fire card.
Another fire card, yeah. So yeah, I think Smothering is a fine card. I actually have it under strong cards. So yeah, it's a good card.
Okay, very cool. Has there been any moment while you've been playing Downpour that has stood out to you as like a really exciting period?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I feel like when I reflect on how I learned Spirit Island, I learned Downpour, it feels like kind of smooth. But I guess yeah, there have been some situations where like I feel like I've suddenly improved a lot because I learned something maybe. Yeah, I think one instance was when I realized how broken the right innate is. Like, you just spam Blight Healing and, like, problems go away. That's probably, like, a moment for me, for sure.
It's simple. You just have this epiphany and you go, "This is a good effect. I should do it more often."
Yeah, it's like, why solve problems where I just Blight Heal and the problems don't exist, you know? It's kind of like there is no war in Ba Sing Se.
There is no
Exactly
war.
like that. There is no Blight.
Okay, I like it. That's a simple analogy. Do you find that Downpour succeeds against a particular adversary, or is it pretty good against all of them?
First of all, yeah, against if I look at all the adversaries, I would say against single sixes, Downpour pretty much crushes everything. Spirit's just very strong. Some matchups are definitely harder than others, though. I think Russia and Livestock stand out as being needing specific, like needing a lot of experience, and playing Downpour to its maximum to do well in these matchups. Downpour's best matchup, I would say, is definitely Scotland. Um, Scotland is a bit of a punching bag because almost every spirit has like decentish matchups into them. But Downpour is really, really a Scotland killer. Most of the time, you can finish the game taking 0 blight because you healed all your blight. Sometimes you even took like -1 blight because you healed your starting blight as well.
Leave them alone, okay?
Yeah, so funny story. I have been to Scotland a couple of times. It definitely rains a lot there, so
So you feel like it's a good matchup because theming is you're supposed to cover up Scotland with all the rain.
yeah, very, very on brand for Downpour to be good against Scotland. Um, but yeah, the mechanical reason is because Downpour's mechanics they're just so good against Scotland. Like everything that Scotland wants to do.
They're really susceptible to an isolate.
Yeah, exactly. So Isolate stops coastal adjacency builds. It also stops the Scotland 6 adding a town effect.
Yeah.
Right, and then one thing that's really dangerous about Scotland is because their invader deck is 1-1-2-2-3, you get these really early back-to-backs that you don't see against other spirits, other adversaries, I mean. And then when Downpour sees a back-to-back, you just go, oh, there's no blight. Go ahead, Ravage, I don't care. Um, so yeah, it really shuts down the adversary in a very unique way.
I like that. Versus Habsburg, they seem difficult if you're trying to clear out the blight that they produce, but if they hit hard enough, that's a loss condition. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, Livestock is one of those matchups which is very tricky until you play it like 10 times and then it becomes very easy. I think the trick to Downpour versus Livestock is you have to take non-LC Blight, then the next time this land comes up, you Foundations it. Right? Because the first time, if it's like Explorer Town, this is not a loss condition. So now this land has a blight. And then the next time it comes up, it's going to build 2 towns and gather another town, and that's when you Foundations it.
You just completely clear the land and you're in a comfortable spot.
Yeah, so that's usually the main trick into Livestock. Like, you purposely take non-loss condition blight, and then you Foundations the land before they Ravage the second time, and they heal the blight back afterwards.
Good tip.
Also, Isolates are good against Livestock. It stops
They
the gather,
are.
it stops the adjacency plus 2 damage. Yeah, it's a lot of tricks. The only thing bad against Downpour versus there's a couple of things bad. One of them is, durable towns. Downpour really has a hard time dealing with durable towns. The Han don't do damage. You need 4 Foundations. It's really nasty. So Escalations, Reminder card are really nasty for Downpour. But yeah, I would still say it's a pretty good matchup if you play it a couple of times.
Is there a spirit combo or like 2-player Downpour plus someone else that you want to play with a lot. Something that's really fun.
Yeah, Downpour duos or Downpour combos is where the juice is. Like, I think Downpour solo, I also play a bunch, but it doesn't feel that fun because the games are a bit like, I don't know, like single six adversaries are not the strongest challenge for Downpour, and then high doubles for Downpour solo is like really, really hard. But duos is where Downpour really, really shines. Um, I think the main reason why Downpour is so strong in duos is because, first of all, you have really long range growths, right? Like, you have a range 3 grow, you have a range 2 grow, lots of presence moves. It makes it very easy for you to pop over there and help your partner if the other spirit needs any help. So it's just very flexible on where actions happen on the board.
It also, the Gift of Abundance can repeat any unique as early as turn 1.
Yeah. It can repeat other people's good cards, so infinitely better in a duo. I think there are two main categories of spirits that Downpour is very good with. So one is control-based spirits. So probably a good example here would be something like, Rampant Green, right? Repeat Prolif is OP. They can skip a dump land and then you foundations the dump land. You have some Dahan Defend shenanigans going on. It's just a very nice combo to play. The other kind of combo that I think Downpour really, really shines in is situations where your other spirit is a very greedy carry. So like Keeper or Finder. And this kind of situation, it showcases Downpour's ability to stabilize your carry. Because one thing that Downpour is really good at is the adversary does something, and then Downpour says, no, you're not doing that. Right? Like,
Yeah.
Blight Healing, Defense, Isolates, like, these are tools that Downpour can use to stabilize your teammates' game. So, like, you have a Keeper on your team. Now your Keeper can go as greedy as possible. And then turn 4 or 5, the Keeper is like, well, I'm scaled up now. You guys are all going to die. Right? So that's kind of like another kind of comfort zone for me playing Downpour.
Is there a spirit that you don't like to play with, or does Downpour have no bad duos?
Yeah, is there a spirit I don't like to play with Downpour? It's really hard to say because I feel like Downpour doesn't have I feel like Downpour doesn't have bad duos because the worst kind of situation is just like, Downpour helps you a bit, you help me a bit, like we're just playing a duo game. I guess Teeth. I don't like playing with Teeth.
Okay.
And that's just because I feel like Teeth is just very passive. It doesn't have as much ability to help out other players. Could also just be that I'm bad at Teeth and all my friends are bad at Teeth. That's possible. Yeah, it just feels like Teeth doesn't really offer me back in exchange.
That's fair. I think that we've covered a lot of cool things about the spirit. What do you think other people think about the spirit? Does the community rate Downpour very highly, very poorly?
Yeah, there's two things that I want to say here. The first thing is that I think people correctly rate Downpour as one of the strongest spirits of the game, and not like top 5 strongest, but like top 10 if you include aspects. I would say it's around that level. So top 10,
top 25%.
Yeah. It's definitely like the top quartile of spirits in the game. So yeah, people do appreciate that it's a very powerful spirit. The other thing I find, a lot of people tell me this about Downpour, is that people think Downpour is boring or like samey. And I've had a lot of people mention this. One common sentiment comes from Red Revenge, right? Like quite a well-known YouTuber who says that Downpour is very samey. And I do appreciate that sentiment. Sometimes I feel that as well when I play Downpour. And I feel like the reason why Downpour feels very samey has part to do with the fact that it is very strong. Downpour is one of the few spirits in the game who beat many adversaries without drafting cards. Like, their starting kit beats a level 6 adversary. There are not many spirits in the game that can do this, and Downpour is one of them. So if you can win the game without drafting, then all your games are going to be you playing your uniques, right? So it will feel kind of samey. So I do appreciate that fact, the fact that, it feels samey because it's really strong. The other thing is that Gift of Abundance, that's also part of the reason, because Downpour really loves to play this card, and your team really loves you to play this card. So what often ends up happening is you just reclaim a lot because you want to play Gift of Abundance. And then when you're not playing Gift of Abundance, when you're not reclaiming, you tend to want to G2 because you either want to catch up on your growths or you want to get the 2 water. And that means that you're not drafting a lot because you're not taking as much G3. And I feel like drafting is where a lot of the variety of Downpour play comes from, right? Because some games, you take like, oh, Call to Guard, and then you have a great game. And then another game, you take Call to Trade, and then you have a completely different game because you got a different card to play around. Another reason why I feel like people think Downpour is very samey is because they're not drafting as much, I suppose. So yeah, if you play more G3 focused Downpour, I think it would be a lot more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing I can say about this is combos. Downpour is a spirit that really thrives off playing on multiple boards because your power repeats are not restricted to your own board, to the same land, right? So you really want to play on multiple different boards, and I think that also introduces a lot of excitement to playing Downpour, as compared to there is no Blight in Ba Sing Se kind of play style that Downpour just has if you play by itself.
Considering their power, is there something that you would change or remove to bring it more in line, or are you happy with its power?
Oh, that's a hard question. So I'm not a game designer, right? So it's not really easy for me to say what I would change. Personally, this is also a hot take. Downpour is very strong, but I think Downpour's power level is acceptable to me, and that's probably because my comfort zone is like Div 13, so I feel like Downpour is fine. But yeah, if your comfort zone is like single 6, then it's definitely a bit overloaded for sure. What can I do to make Downpour worse? I don't even know. I've experimented with some ideas. So one idea that I thought of was that the second growth option, instead of discard 2 cards, the effect of your second growth is -1 card play.
Oh, interesting.
Which I thought was an interesting idea. Now I don't know how what the effect of such a change would be to the actual game, but the intention was that you can play less cards, but you get the extra water to repeat that card more often.
That's unique.
Yeah, that would be a interesting cost compared to discard 2 cards. And yes, this discard 2 cards is also another reason why Downpour can feel samey. Because if you draft cards and then you just never play them, just discard them, right? So yeah, you don't get that excitement from playing new cards
This -1 plays would be very interesting, as you couldn't do it on turn 1 to be able to play any cards.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so you'd have to get to 2 card plays to be able to play 1 card half the time.
Yep.
And you'd still have all the options in your hand for the next turn. Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it could be quite strong for scaling as well, because you don't have to discard cards anymore. So you could just G2 a bunch, play 1 card.
It's possible. Maybe
Yeah,
it's something
so
like discard 1 card and -1 card
-1
play.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, again, as I said, like I'm not a designer. I also haven't spent that much time.
But that's where you would look at their G2.
It's one thing that I considered, yes. You can also do other things like G3 doesn't give an energy, like reduce the energy income of the spirit a bit. But I don't really think these things are, I don't think they would be fun to play, because Downpour already kind of enjoys minors a lot more than majors. I mean, this could also be just like, the way people play Downpour. It doesn't have to be inherent to Downpour, but yeah, I feel like taking away Downpour's energy income would make that problem even worse, and you're just like relegated to support duty every game. So that wouldn't be too fun.
I think you hit it on the head there with taking away its energy is probably not the most appropriate. I think that it has a lot of very powerful, unique cards, and a lot of powerful, unique cards that, when repeated, can kind of win the game.
That's true. Like, its uniques are also very overloaded compared to minor powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had people telling me that Deluge, instead of pushing Dahan, it should just say like 1 Dahan does not counterattack, something like that. So you can't do the trick where you put the Dahan back in.
Yeah, or like push the Dahan, someone else defends that land because it's also ravaging. And Like, now this pushes an advantage, and it's already a powerful card.
Yeah.
I think the Deluge and Foundations being so powerful at doing what Spirit Island wants you to do makes the game feel sometimes stale.
Yeah, I think that is part of the sentiment. Yeah, and yeah, I can appreciate that, but I don't feel that way for some reason. I just like. Let me tell you a thing that I really enjoy about Downpour.
Yeah.
So I experienced quite a lot when. So turn one on Downpour, I almost always take the third growth option because I like drafting on turn one. And then one thing that I experience is that it's so common for me on turn one to just draft a card that wins the game. Like, this is just pure vibes based, okay, at that point. So I just experience this a lot. Like, turn one, draft a card, oh, I won the game. Right? It just happens so often.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I actually went and looked through all the minor powers. And then it turns out that the number of cards that win the game against the level 6 adversary at a given instance is somewhere in the ballpark of like 25 to 30 cards, sometimes more, right? So the minor deck is 100 cards, okay? So if you have 30 cards out of these that win the game, you have a massive chance to hit it on turn one, right? Because you see 4 cards.
Yeah, it's very high.
Yeah, so there's a high chance to win the game immediately on turn one. But these cards don't all play the same way, right? If that makes sense. Like, if you have 30 cards that all win the game by doing the same thing, that's boring. But if you have 30 cards that can win the game by all doing different things, that's interesting, right?
Yeah. And that's where you see the spirit.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what makes Downpour fascinating for me, because I like to draft on turn one and be like, yep, I won the game. But I also like to draft on turn one and take a card which I don't think wins the game, because I want to figure out how this card wins the game. Right? So I have had situations where my turn one draft is like Constancy, Sap, Mez, and then I purposely take the card that is bad. Right? Like, maybe the third card is, the last card is something like, I don't know, Hazard Spreads. Like, not a terrible card, but also not one of the super game-winning cards. Because I want to see how Downpour plays with this card, right? Does it win? How do I win if it wins? I think that's a big part of how Downpour interacts with the minor deck, and how you can make the game a lot more interesting for Downpour.
I like that sentiment. So if you like Downpour, would you recommend any other spirits to try instead?
I think that depends on what part of Downpour you like, right? And what kind of gameplay you like. For me, personally, I think the two most similar spirits to Downpour in my mind would be Many Minds and Tangles, the green aspect.
Okay.
And the reason that they're really similar to Downpour is that, first of all, they both have like a Dahan Defend minigame, right? Where green has the Dahan Push card and Defend Innate. Many Minds has Guide, Move Dahan, and Dahan Defend Innate. And they both also have ways to control a big land, right? So green has its skips, Many Minds has a skip, Downpour has a Blight Heal. These spirits also often play into a game plan where you have one big land that you will nuke later down the line, and then you sort of solve your other problems with your other small actions, right? So I feel like these three spirits play very similarly in my mind.
That's a good recommendation. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, but maybe people like different parts about Downpour. Like, if you like the cross-boarding aspect of Downpour, like being able to do many different boards, doing lots of different things to help different players, I think one nice spirit to play is Trickster, right? Because Trickster also kind of plays like that, where you hop onto different boards, donate small actions. But yeah, I don't know. I don't play too much Trickster, so I might just be completely wrong on that.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to ask me before we wrap up?
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about this podcast, right? Like, you've asked a bunch of different people to talk about different spirits. Are you gonna ask them? Are you gonna make one episode for every spirit? Is that the plan?
That's a good question. I really want to bring the community together in a really broad way. Yes, I would like to be able to hear the perspectives of all the different players who play their favorite spirits. So I'm going down the line and asking, what do you think of this spirit and that spirit? And I don't want these to be verbal guides, but I want these to be about the spirit
Yeah,
and the
makes
people who
sense.
play them.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking.
yeah. I'm also very interested to hear about every spirit, because I don't play every spirit. I play like, I don't know, maybe half of the spirits. So it's always fun to hear other people talk about spirits they like.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to get to some of the spirits that I'm really unfamiliar with. I've played all the spirits
Mm-hmm.
at least 5 games, but 5 games compared to the hundreds to
Yeah,
thousands that people invest into their favorite spirit is a drop in the water. Or a drop in the
yeah, yeah.
deluge.
Drop in the downpour. Well, just out of curiosity, what is your least played spirit?
So my least played spirit is Dances Up Earthquakes, Fracture Days with the Sky, Devouring Teeth Lurk Underfoot, and
Right.
Shroud
Okay.
of Silent Mist.
Yeah, with 5 games each, I guess. Yeah, I can tell you that my least played spirit is Thunder Speaker. It's the only spirit that I have 0 games with.
0 games.
Don't have much interest in this spirit.
Well, maybe you will after you hear the Thunder Speaker episode.
Yeah, maybe that could be interesting. Yeah, I did consider experimenting with Thunder Speaker after a friend of mine told me about this G3+4 energy, and then turned to a reclaim, gain 2 majors. I heard that was a fun build.
Okay. I would not have thought of that myself. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was considering playing that. Yeah, but yeah, the reason why I don't play is because of aesthetics. I think all these spirits are, like cool aspects of nature, and then you have like a person. I mean, it fits into the lore of Thunder Speaker. It's the spirit of the Dahan, of course, but for some reason, to me, it doesn't have the same like, primordial connection that a lot of the other spirits do.
I get you. Is there anywhere that you want people to be able to reach out to you? Any socials or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm most active on the Discord server. So this is Spirit Island Second Wave, I believe it's called. So yeah, I have written a Downpour guide. There is a thread discussing it, and yeah, it's also posted to Reddit if people want to take a look at it.
And I will post that the link to that as well.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you for having this discussion with me.
You're welcome. Like, it's my pleasure. Always happy to talk about Downpour.
It's a good excuse.
Yes, good excuse.
Thanks for being on the show. Hopefully you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
That wraps up today's episode of the Spirited Discussions podcast. A huge thanks to Serenade for joining me to talk about Downpour Drenches the World. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. And share the podcast with fellow Spirit Island fans. You can also join the discussion over on our community Discord. Thanks for listening, and until next time, have a wonderful week.